Friends, thanks for joining us tonight or morning or what time is it where you guys are at and where exactly are you? Um, the reason I wanted to do an actual Q&A is because every time I've been doing the live streams, they're kind of a full-on presentation of one form or another. And when I'm reading off the screen, I can't see the chat. I'm going to figure out how to fix this in the future, but there's always questions that are asked in the chat and the comments that I can't respond to. And like I said, when I'm doing the presentations, I can't answer all the questions that come in. So I had this bright idea and I thought, why don't we try? And if this is lame and you guys don't want to do it, we'll try it a couple times. But if it's stupid, we won't do it because there's plenty of other content to do. But you guys have a lot of questions, and I just figured to kill many birds with one stone, we could just hang out and you can literally answer anything you want. And it's a good way to wind down at the end of the week. Although I'm a little sketched out now about I might have to change my plans on what we were going to do tonight just because of the YouTube shit. But it's a way to wind down and we play a little party game, right? Me and Marcus Sawyer of the channel In Theta had this series where every time somebody would say a certain word and come up with the word, it can't be Scientology because whenever we say this word, we take a hit of our favorite poison. And again, because I'm sketched out by YouTube, disclaimer, we're not encouraging anybody to use drugs or drink or whatever. This is simply a game. So every time me and Marcus or somebody in the audience would say the word Monica, it was like a drinking game. And we would throw up this little thing, this trophy, get hit of their favorite poison or not. We're not encouraging anybody to hit the crack pipe or anything. And since I have had recent issues with YouTube, I was going to, also indulge with you and take the hit of my pipe or whatever. But maybe I'll just leave that out for this Q&A. And you guys can go ahead and take the hit when we say whatever the fuck word it is. Please come up with something in the comments. Like I said, it can't be common like Scientology because we'll all be fucked up within 30 minutes and not so uncommon that we never get to throw up this and let me know, and I'll have to fix that. And basically, please, if you have any questions, anything at all, please don't make me look like an idiot sitting here with my dick in my hand going, thump, thump, thump on the counter. Anything's open on the table, including the Danny Masterson thing, if you want to discuss that. If you have any questions on that, I haven't had a chance to go through the comments yet, my friends, but as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to jump on the live chat replay when that publishes because I don't want that video to get taken down because I really want to hear your advice on what to do going forward with the recent shenanigans. Anyways, lady, hey Doug, I stayed awake to be with you. Oh, thanks. It's okay. It's okay. I promise. And yeah, lady, I promise I'll get back to you. I'm just a little behind, but I've been really wanting to get back to you and talk to you. So just give me a little time. Jason, that's crazy star, but that's why those ladies, this is in reference to the Danny Masterson case, and all of the women on SPTV are still going to need our support. Yeah, the cult's going to step up their BS, absolutely, as they already are, especially during the civil trials. Yeah, good point. But man, this thing that's happening with Danny Masterson is so mind-blowing to me personally. Like I said before, I can't imagine what would be going on in these gals' heads that pulled off this miracle. But there is a shitstorm to come with what this is going to open up, not just with Danny and not just with the civil suit, but much more that's already kind of coming out of the woodwork. It's a good time to be alive, and it's a good time to see Scientology finally get some of what we called earlier reversing the flow, where rather than they sue everybody and they have all the power, the X community seems to be doing the suing and the attack, which is good to see. Chow Young Smut, how are you doing? And by the way, Chow, I got your free wins pictures and your trip, and I wanted to know if you wanted to possibly come on and talk about that. No pressure. Sorry to put you on the spot. But again, I've been backlogged on emails, but your story's fascinating. I have experience on the free wins too, and those pictures you sent over really re-stimulated me. And I think it'd be a good time to talk about the free wins for a video if you felt like doing that. No pressure. Just get back to me. Jane Smith, you did change your moniker, Jane. You were something else last video about an hour and a half ago, right? I am ready with my hot cocoa. Hey, I'm an old lady, so that is all I can handle. Perfect, Jane. Disclaimer, we're not encouraging anybody to do drugs when the magic word is said or take, a hit of vodka like we know Lady will be doing. Jane, you're more than welcome to indulge and still play the game by doing cocoa. All right. I finally don't have to worry about running presentations or slides. I know you guys didn't ask any questions, so I'm going to look like a complete fucking idiot now trying to find one, but stand by. Um, Come on, guys. Ask anything. Oh, if you don't mind, if you could put question in bold, it will help me decipher it until I can figure out, like I said, because I have to work around the super chat shit and all that stuff to actually be able to find them. So you can put question, or I think if you put at dazed but not confused, it'll help to highlight it. Again, I'll figure out what to do in the future. Cave Ma'am, thank you for coming through. Question: how do you maintain your deprogramming, Doug? Very interesting question. First of all, I don't claim to ever be fully deprogrammed. That's a lifetime process. Every day I have new perceptions and new, oh my God, especially interviewing like ex-Scientologists and just talking about it. Like Cave, we talked the other day to Kelly Copter, who's this like amazing gal and has this really powerful survivor story, the strength of spirit. And I don't think that I think she would probably agree that once you get this kind of a wound from something like Scientology and like what she went through and I went through in our childhoods, you never really fully deprogram. You integrate that wound and you heal and heal and heal, and you have new and new revelations. And ever since I started talking out about it, if anybody's possibly encouraged to do the same thing and you're thinking you're an ex of anything or you have something to say on YouTube, I got here on an accident because we were all locked in our houses during the pandemic and it was spontaneous. But I've never knew there was so much healing to do, and it never would have happened unless I actually spoke it out. So because of that, that deprogramming process will be going on for a lifetime, and that became very clear the more I speak to people that have similar experiences in the community. I hope that answered your question. Okay, thank you for the questions, guys, because it's until I figure out a way to do some kind of super chat or highlight thing without charging people money or whatever, I'd prefer to do that. It's such a pain in the ass. Cali Blue 2, good to see you. Question: what is the Laurel Canyon PSYOP connection with Bijou's Oh, you had to ask a question that's like a 2-hour video, but I'll give you a summary. What is the Laurel Canyon PSYOP connection with Bijou's father, and how might it affect their family now? Okay, so a basic summary is Bijou Phillips' father is a guy named Papa John Phillips, and he was one of the singers and musicians in the pop and the Mamas and Papas band. And we don't have time to go into the Laurel Canyon scene here. It's covered on videos, 2 videos in the Raised in a Secret Society series. It's called The Summer of Psyops, Manson, Son of Sam, and Scientology. And also in those videos, like always, I reference the books that we talked about. There's a very important book called Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon by Dave McGowan, where there's a free PDF of that book. There's a free PDF of Program to Kill. There's a free PDF of all this information that goes into the Laurel Canyon scene, which has connections to Charles Manson, Jim Morrison, and all the bands that came out that I still look up to. It's just my perception has changed, but all the hippie bands and the famous bands, it's totally different than them being against the establishment. It was actually a psyop, to answer your question, to divert people from the war. Again, see those videos and read the books for more to back up that statement. There's also a book by a guy named Tom O'Neill called Chaos. Charles Manson, Charles Manson, the CIA and the secret history of the 60s. Again, I have links to all this shit, although I think you have to pay for that book. But there's so much involving Charles Manson, the Laurel Canyon anti-establishment bands, and Bijou Phillips' father was instrumental in that scene by not only setting up the Monterey Pop Film Festival in 1967, which helped to kick off that in a big way, but in the whole scene of these Laurel Canyon bands, the Mamas and the Papas, and John Phillips in particular, was kind of at the top of that pyramid, if you will, for lack of a better explanation. Jesus, I hope I didn't ramble, but you're asking a question that requires a lot of evidence to back that up. And like I said, check out those videos, and I'll leave some videos a few hours after this video publishes for you to further investigate, so you don't have to go dig for the answer to that question. But that's a great question. Jason, question: is there an org in Minnesota other than MLP5? I don't know what MLP5 is, man, if I'm even saying that correct, or is it S? I want to trick or treat one on Halloween dressed as Xenu. Great idea, my man, but you're going to have to consult Google or a Google map for that because I don't know. I don't know if there's one in Minnesota. I don't know what MLP5 is. If anybody knows, let us know. But you should definitely go to Halloween dressed as Xenu. And even if it isn't a Scientology org, I mean, if it looks cult like, maybe it'll still have the same effect. It doesn't always have to be Scientology. There's plenty of other groups to hit upon. Guys, did you come up with a word that we can use if you want to partake in the party game that we can say every so often where people can chill out this at the end of this weekend and indulge? Again, we were doing that earlier with Marcus Sawyer and everybody would take a hit of their favorite poison. Anyways, okay. Oh, Minnesota? I still don't know what that means, Megan. MLPS Minneapolis. Okay, so MLPS is short for Minneapolis. I still don't know if there's an org there, my friend. Does anybody know? Jason, I'm not retarded, my man. I can spell. I got it. Minneapolis. All right. This is a pretty easy one to answer. No, I do not. Do you like David Miscavige? You want to hear my theory on this too, by the way? I don't hate anybody because who the hell knows what their upbringing is. I talk to a narcissistic psychopath HG tutor and we get along fine, not because I approve of what he does, but not everybody's all evil. I don't think everybody's like, all evil, including David. And here's the deal. The reason I bring up HG tutor is because I don't know if this is accurate or not. It makes sense, but who knows? But the way that a narcissist or a sociopath, that means a conscienceless person and someone who literally can't feel guilt or empathy. They can fake it. It's called cognitive empathy. They can fake guilt. They can be great actors. But can you imagine not actually feeling that? So, my theory, and it's just a theory, is that David Miscavige wouldn't necessarily come out as what I'm no psychologist. I probably have to say that for YouTube thing. It's my total opinion that he would be what you call a psychopath, a conscienceless person, because it allows him to do things that you and I can't contemplate. But if you look at his father, Ron Miscavige Jr., who was like touted as this big hero and shit when he came out, Karen de la Carriere was holding over information about Ron about knowing that he raped an underage gal, I believe. And he never, that's one example. He could never take responsibility for what he did. He kind of saw himself, in my opinion, as a great guy. And to me, he was the sociopath. So if you grow up with someone like that, and he claims to be a helpful person, helping out, trying to get David Miscavige's problem solved and all that. He had a severe case of asthma where his father didn't know how to handle it. And that's eventually where David wound up into Scientology, and the rest is history. But if I grew up with a father like that has the kind of background, and I only touched upon it, where again, it's my opinion that he's a sociopathic personality. According to HG, if you grow up with someone like that, you either turn into an empathic person because the trauma, makes you want to flee and fix yourself and you go into your imagination, or you become a sociopath yourself. So who knows what David may or may not come out. That's why I don't totally hate him, to answer your question, Mr. Soy, because of that background. But what he's doing, since that's already been formed, there's no chance that he's going to grow empathy and do anything different. So he's always a quote unquote enemy of mine, if that's even the right word. Okay. I guess we can throw up some comments and shit here too. You guys still have not. Okay. Someone finally came up with a word, or I'm just not paying attention. My word, Xenu in the house. That's perfect, Rose. Budami. So anytime someone says the word Xenu or it slips out of my mouth, everybody will take a hit of what they want. Again, if that's lame, we'll just skip it and just answer questions. Or if this whole thing is lame and you guys don't want to do this in the future, this will be a one-time thing. Okay, there's another question. Let me grab it. This might be a good time to actually run some jams and shit in the background too, because I do get sketchy on sitting here with dead air. So I'll throw up this question and I'll just throw on the tunes. But if you guys hate it, it's kind of a mixed bag last time. Some people are like, what the fuck are you doing? And some people are like, hell yeah. So maybe here's the jams and let me know if it's too annoying. Question. You've been speaking out for over 3 years now. Has anyone seen you exposing Scientology on here and reached out to you from your past? I feel like that music is going to be too annoying. I'm going to remove it for now. Has anyone seen you exposing Scientology in here and reached out to you from your past? Well, Marcus Sawyer did. He's kind of the only one I can think of. I'll leave a link in the description box, by the way, to his channel if you don't know who I'm talking about, because he's got a lot of content up there too. And we've done shows together. He reached out and gave me a lot of intel about what was going on with my parents. The Ventura Mission here in California is where I spent a lot of my time before I eventually went to LA and got involved in Celebrity Center and the very celebrities that we've been talking about recently. But it started out in Ventura, and I have learned so much about, because he was on staff while I was a public member. And even though we missed timelines, he gave me so much information that I just discovered when he contacted me a couple years ago about just how manipulated my parents were, how behind the scenes the staff actions versus what I knew as a public were, and just was really helpful in having me understand stuff. As far as there's been a lot of people that have reached out that need help. They tell me their stories. Perhaps they want to come on. I've had many people reach out that want to come on and share their stories, and don't do it, which is totally fine, by the way. If you have a story that you want to talk about, I want to interview anybody, but I always tell them, on the phone when we talk, I kind of almost talk them out of it, because unless they're really ready, I saw some of this on Scientology in the aftermath, where unless you're really ready to talk out about it, there are consequences. It's an evil cult, especially what's going on with Danny now. Everybody's kind of being monitored. I'm not trying to sow fear, just telling you what's going on from personal experience. And, obviously this would be happening on some level, just because of what's going on. So I've had a lot of people reach out to me that want to speak out, but get cold feet and back away. And like I said, I always tell them, are you sure? I kind of almost talk them out of it. Not that I don't want to talk to them, but I don't want their life to be changed by, even coming on a small channel like this and putting the story out. I think people are watching this channel, as small as it is, and they have to be aware that if they do that, they have to be fucking ready, basically. Other than that, who else? I feel people's pain, my friends. So when I do videos like with Kelly, well, Kelly's I felt actually not drained, because it was a really powerful conversation and she's just so energetic. But when I interview someone or I do a video where, like that Danny Masterson video I did, that had my fucking heart and soul in it. It's not totally easy to say that out loud. And so I feel drained. And the same thing happens. I've had a lot of people reach out that tell me their life story, and I feel like I want to save them, but I don't have time. I have a job. This channel is more than a full-time job. It's impossible to get back to the emails and everything. I'm always behind. And then I want to save each person. And I have spent several hours on the phone and this and that, and it just drains me. So doing the content itself is draining, and I have to back away for a while. I don't know how the hell Aaron does one video every day, but more power to him. I mean, so what I'm saying is a lot of people have reached out to me. I spent a lot of hours on the phone with people. I feel like I want to save them, but I can't do everything for them. So that's exhausting. I've had Marcus Sawyer. He's been super helpful, and we've done some amazing broadcasts together. He reached out. I've had, basically that's it. I'm surprised that some people, I know what's going to happen someday. Who knows if Jordan and Alana won't, come out? Who knows what's going to happen? I know a ton of people here in LA. I'm 10 minutes away from all these orgs. So sooner or later, someone's going to contact me. I wish it would be Jason Doring. That's the one that I want out the most, but that's never going to happen. He's an actor that was best known for Veronica Mars, and he's a really cool guy, but he's totally trapped. But sooner or later, I knew a lot of people. Someone's going to actually email me, and maybe if they don't have cold feet and when they're ready, they'll come on and talk. But no, other than Marcus, nobody that I knew, not even here in LA, has contacted me. Oh, there was one other person. I don't think he'll mind me saying his name. Maybe I shouldn't. I don't have his permission, so I'm going to play it safe. But there was somebody who contacted me here in LA. Is right before some vacation, and we lost contact, but we were supposed to hang out and hook up. That was somebody that I knew quite well. Sorry, Jason, for taking forever here. Question: what kind of fair gaming have you had to deal with? Cool if you don't want to get into it. Okay. It's all alleged though. So I don't immediately go to it's just Scientology. And like I said in the previous video, I gave up a long time ago trying to figure out if it's independent OSA, Danny Masterson's team, like I said, whoever was mentioned in that video, if it's just somebody that doesn't like me personally for whatever reason, not everybody's OSA. It's YouTube, and some people don't like the people for whatever personal reason. So I can't tell if I'm being fair gamed or not. But I'll tell you what happened right when I started speaking out. And again, I don't pin this on Scientology. I need to say that to make that clear because I don't even know if it is. So I spoke. What happened is we were locked in our house during the pandemic. This was June 2020. Let me get a drink of water here. There's nothing else to do. I hate YouTube. I'm not a social media guy. I just had nothing to do. Couldn't go to my acting class, couldn't go to the gym. These were my ways of offloading and keeping myself sane. The whole world was a ghost town. It was very strange. And there was literally nothing to do. So spur of the moment, I just decided set up my little shitty government phone camera. I didn't have a computer or a television, anything. And I just set it up because I just felt compelled to speak out about it. And I didn't know what was going to come of that, but I just literally was just, there's nothing to do. And it wasn't something I ever planned on doing or was going to do. I just wanted to deprogram and get back to Hollywood. But man, is that fucking changed with the very deprogramming itself. So the very first thing that happened is I posted a video which was called Quarantine Days. And then my friend, which will answer another question that somebody actually asked in the comments earlier, my quote unquote friend who snapped me out of this cult was a member of the Actor Studio, which we talked about in detail a few videos back. And he came to my house one day and dropped off a stack of books on my doorstep. And at the very top was Combating My Cult Mind Control by Steve Hassan. I've already told this story before. I want to get to the point. That snapped me out of it in a day. He wasn't my friend. He's a narcissist. And I've known this for a long time, but especially talking with HG, especially, starting up a YouTube channel and seeing the way that he acted, where he actually tried to sabotage it before it got off the ground while pretending to help me. And I already knew this about him anyways when I first met him, but I wasn't aware. So this was not a friend. He was doing it to mostly get back at me and make me wrong for being a Scientologist. I personally don't think he cared. And his purpose was to get me out of the cult. It doesn't matter. I've said thank you to him a million times. And I've been a slave and bowed down to his abusive actions because I always felt that I owed him something permanently for dropping off that book. I've since come to my senses. I blocked him a long time ago. And while I thank from afar, and I thanked him enough for getting me the fuck out of the cult, no, he's not a good person. And we've covered that before. So with that in mind, I then, with his advice, the guy that dropped the book off that now wants to help me with the channel, said you should go on Reddit and do an AMA. I guess that stands for Ask Me Anything. Was never on Reddit before. Like I said, I did minimal social media. I still try to. That's why I'm not everywhere. This takes enough, and I don't have my phone near me a lot. I don't want to be too connected to this shit. So anyways, he says there's this thing called AMA, and if you go on Reddit and say I was an ex-Scientologist, everyone will talk to you and shit. So I did that, and I didn't know that I had to verify my story or send in anything. So for about 10 hours, I just got bombarded with all these amazing questions and threads and information that the Redditors were doing. I was like, holy shit. So I stayed up all night or half a night before, I don't know, 8-10 hours later, they took the post down and Reddit said to me, you have to send in verification and then you can repost this. So I'm like, okay. So I took a shot of my driver's license and I had to hold it up to my face. I sent it in. I did another AMA, and I shit you not, it had to be at least a day and a half because I can stay up this long if I'm creatively motivated, maybe 2 days, where I felt so guilty about not answering everybody's questions that I stayed up just endless hours, just answering. By the way, those links to those AMAs, if you want to see them, they're just loaded with information. Are on the link on like one of the first videos on the Raised in a Secret Society series. And actually, I'll link it in this video too, because anything I talk about here is going in the description box after the video. So the very first thing, I'm sorry, I mean, I figure I'll throw in some history too, just to riff off your question. I'm going to answer it, but it's kind of like story time, I guess. This is why I wanted to do the Q&A. I don't have to stay within the parameters on a video or a subject. I can just talk openly about shit that's been on my mind for a long time. That's also what that Danny Masterson video was. I couldn't talk about that shit that I've been holding on to for so long. And that was just a part of it. There's more to come. So the first thing that happened is somebody on Reddit said, "Is that your black SUV outside of your house?" I know this is going to sound crazy, but people that are following the channel will understand that my first thought is Karen and Jeffrey. That would be Jeffrey Augustine and Karen De La Carriere. Again, I'll cover this with more information later, but there's plenty up there already. If you don't know what I'm talking about, those people I suspect first, even before Scientology. So that's what I thought. I didn't think it was Osa. I thought it's Karen fucking with me or whatever. And that was the first thing that happened. And then about a week, maybe 2 weeks later, both of my license plates on my car, on my black SUV that I no longer have, I'll explain in a second, they got removed. Okay. Now, I live near a bridge where there's a bunch of homeless people that started stacking up because of the pandemic. So it could very easily be because the crime rate went out the fucking roof here in Los Angeles. Thank you, government, for protecting us from the flu. Everybody else died. The crime rate went crazy. I mean, LA was fucking nuts for a while during this shit. So I got these poor homeless people where there was none before living under this bridge right over here. They could very well easily have stole shit. They started stealing stuff around the cars that were out here. The crime rate went up right where I'm at. So I can't say it's OSA or Scientology. So I got the thread on Reddit. I got my license plate stolen. And then shortly after that, I had my car broken into multiple times. And finally, one of those break-ins was to take out, I don't know much about cars, but there's the key chamber. They took out the whole fucking thing. There was shit everywhere on the car. They tried to definitely get into the lock and steal it. So long story short, I fucking sold the car for like nothing. I haven't had a car for a while. I've had the YouTube channel taken down multiple times. Like I said before, out of the blue, I got hit with 3 copyright strikes, whereas the day before I had none. That's very unusual. I've gone into that on other videos. That might have been my fault, whatever. I most recently, I think stayed within the parameters of the talking about Masterson. I don't know why I got hit with the thing that we went over today. I mean, there's been a million. The main things have been, if it's OSA or independent OSA, as I call them, or anybody they apply the art of war tactics. So you're not going to know who it is that's doing what. So I can never prove who it is, that it's Scientology or not. So I don't want to accuse Scientology. Somebody doesn't immediately become OSA because you don't agree with them. I can confirm, like I said earlier, that Alonzo, also known as Alan, it's laughable that people that know the X community, that Jeffrey Augustine would say that he works for OSA. I don't even think that he believes that. If he does, he's really dumb. But I don't think he believes that personally. Anybody, like I said, that's been around the X community knows how laughable that is. So just because someone calls somebody out or questions them in a way that they don't like, I don't immediately fucking think it's OSA or Scientology. I mean, they do bad shit, but you have to back it up or try to, if you're going to like accuse somebody. And that creates a frantic environment within the SPTV community where now it's the party line that Alan, who I know quite well, is being repeated that he works for OSA when I and many other people know that's not true. So that's rumors get spread. And as evil as Scientology is, I don't think you can just blame everything on them. I didn't blame them on my car. I didn't blame them on the threat on Reddit. I can't even blame them on taking the YouTube channel down. I don't bother speculating anymore. I'm just trying to find where I can talk out about this stuff and not walk on eggshells talking about that. Most of the fair game, to finally answer your question, has come in the way of just trying to get the information from coming out and the channel coming down. And there's been more shit that I can't prove where I feel like I've been fucked with. But again, who cares, man? It's all minor shit anyways. Okay, so let's see. The only thing that's not minor, I can stand the little head games. The only thing that's not minor is, like I said, I just want to keep putting the information out. And, if they get the voice taken away, I'm fucked. Philosophy, what's up? Question. Doug, what do you do for creativity? I mean, as an artist, I'd imagine you still need an outlet for your creativity. That ties right into what we were talking about earlier, philosophy. I was so going out of my fucking head being stuck in my house and living in this weird town and seeing the crime rate increase. The actor studio was my fucking cathedral, man. It was my healing. It was my whole philosophy. It's what got me out of Scientology, not just because my friend dropped that book off, but because the creativity of being around these amazing artists and being around Martin Landau, that was encouraging me to be my true self and not to act, but to be. And that was something I learned previously, believe it or not, from Robert Lyons, who was my Scientology teacher that got me away from those people and into the actor studio. Again, see the actor studio video. So, long story short, that creativity and learning how to be who I really was clashing with the programming of my Scientology experience. So, even if that guy didn't drop that book off, and I've thought about this a lot, the creativity was the way out. It's the one thing they couldn't take away from me in Scientology. They tried to get me to sign the Sea Org contract a bunch of times, and the only reason I couldn't give it up is not dissimilar to what Kelly Copter said the other night. I can't join the Sea Org. I'm going to be a famous singer. That's what she said. And I said, yeah, I want to help mankind and sign the contract because it's the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. But I'm going to be a famous actor. Don't you understand? And then I'm going to proselytize Scientology. So when the pandemic hit, and I'm locked in my house, I got my acting class taken away, which was my healing and which kind of saved me from Scientology to begin with. The gym, going over to throw the weights around every other day for an hour, that kept me in shape. That was my therapy. That got shut down. I was so going out of my skin that literally one day I'm just like, I'm going to fucking talk out about Scientology just because I'm going to lose my creativity. So even though I didn't know how to fucking edit, and I still don't, I'm still learning, but the first videos were super shitty. So the editing sucked and the sound was all over the place. But as far as the creativity goes, that this whole thing has been way more satisfying than doing an acting job. This is why I'm not sucking Hollywood's cock, and there's many other reasons, like going back and begging to be creative and please, give me the role. I don't have to hide behind a character. I was trying to speak the truth through characters. This kind of skips that. I can actually just speak the truth, and I don't have to give it in some movie or something. I can talk about something that actually means something to me. The healing that I've gotten back from the comments has been astounding. And despite all the work and all the challenges of just keeping the fucking thing up, learning how to edit, all the endless nights that it's taken, it's been a more than a full-time thing doing this job. Not only is this been my creativity. I mean, I do other things and I have a life, but this has been more creative. This saved my life during the pandemic. I would have gone crazy, philosophy, literally. The biggest offense that I had was that the acting class was shut down. And when they opened up, you had to go through all the requirements, which I was never going to do. So yeah, I really got soured by the choices that the actor studio made during this, that my creativity was robbed, which, philosophy, if you're a creative, which I'm sure you are, that's like taking someone's air away. It's not like a minor thing. And I was planning on going back to Hollywood anyways before all this bullshit happened. So everything got reevaluated. My creativity got satisfied way more in the last 3 or so years, actually on this YouTube, which is the last thing I thought I'd be doing. And plus, it actually does something real. It heals me. I think it helps others. The emails I've gotten, the support, it's been unbelievable. So that's the answer to that. There's no way I would have made it through this pandemic. And I mean, I would have went crazy without this outlet. That's the answer to that. Any more questions, my friends? And or comments? Chow, what's up again? Hollywood gets its cock sucked quite often. Yes. It does not need you to do it too. Yeah, I know you're joking, Chow, and I kind of cackled there too, but man, that really is the issue that I really want to expose, and that really gets under my skin because it's near and dear to my heart with the Scientology microcosm of the macrocosm that we talk about. Scientology abuses children. That's the part that pisses me off the most. Again, when I was talking to Kelly Copter the other day, the upbringing that fucking sweet gal had that was forced upon her by her father for no wrongdoing of hers really pisses me off. It's what Serge Del Mar talks about. It's what's coming out with Danny Masterson. It does interrelate to Hollywood. And again, like I said earlier, I'm not speaking on opinion. I'd like to share my personal experiences with the very people that may have gotten that video dinged. So, anyways, Hollywood is another subject that has yet to come to light. I do believe it's intertwined with Danny Masterson and what's allegedly going on with Ashton Kutcher and others. And there's a whole fucking scene there to come out. And that ties back into what you were asking earlier, philosophy. This shit actually means something to me. And it's not just hiding behind a character and having to. Here's the truth, man. What my plan was, because I already sussed that Hollywood's a cult a long time ago. So I was thinking, how am I going to, I went through kind of a wake up process. I know that's an overused word, and I'll explain what my particular process was when we get to season 3 of the Raising a Secret Society series, because there's a lot to say on that. I want to explain that because it's such an overused word. But I went through a massive, massive change of everything, particularly my perception. And where I wasn't able to see that Scientology had a mind prison around me, the next day I could. And it was such a crazy experience that it really woke me up to a lot of things, not just Scientology. So when I end up, I feel like I'm just absolutely rambling and I completely forgot the fucking question. See, that's the problem, man. I got to keep the fucking thing up. Shit. I'm so sorry for completely forgetting the question. God damn it. If anybody can help me out, I just, for whatever reason, brain farted. And I guess I'll just move on to another question, but there was an actual point to make there. Sorry about that. If it swings back around, I'll try to pick it up. I don't know what the hell happened there. Desante Salzer comment. It's sad that Hollywood. Oh, thanks for triggering that. We were talking about Hollywood sucking cocks. And when I went through this wake up process, my rationale, thank you so much for triggering this, was to get back into Hollywood without selling my soul, with knowing what it gets up to. I'm not going to get, butt raped by anybody. That none of that happened to me, but I have things I'd like to share about what I observed. So I was trying to figure out how to be kind of a character actor. I never wanted to be famous anyways. I don't like attention. I don't want to be noticed. I just wanted to do that because I can't do a 9-to-5er. I need to be creative. I wanted to be an actor since I was a fucking kid. And as you guys know that followed the series, it was all that came out of my mouth asking my parents when I can do this shit. So because I had this wake up process, I was trying to work out in my mind, how can I go back to Hollywood, just make enough money to survive, get jobs here and there, and just service my creativity and not get wrapped up in this cult. And I'll make a long story short. That wasn't really going to happen. So even though I have this small little irrelevant YouTube channel, I don't have to sell my soul, and I don't have to try to work around a system like Hollywood where I know how corrupt it is. Again, we touched upon that in the video the other day, and I personally think that that's why the video got taken down. So I can't go back to Hollywood. Somebody had asked that question before, not without knowing what I know. And what's the point anyways? I don't want to have to go through that process when, as fucked up as YouTube is and as much as they censor, it is amazing that anybody that wants to say anything can get on here, doesn't have to suck Hollywood's cock. You kind of have to suck YouTube's cock. But what I'm saying is you can get on here and you can take a crack at it. And if people find what you have to say interesting, you don't have to go through anybody. And unless you're dealing with sensitive topics, you can pretty much say anything on here. So that's why I'm never going back to Hollywood. Plus, they're on a strike right now. I think AI wants to fucking take over and there probably won't be any actors anymore. And like I said earlier, philosophy, this is so much more satisfying. Something that I needed to do or I was going to die. I really wrestled with how do I go back to Hollywood without selling my soul. All like having to give that up really fucking sucked. And I never thought I'd be able to do it. But through the pandemic or whatever, I went through another reevaluation, and it's just much more satisfying. And that urge to go back to Hollywood, remarkably, has kind of faded away. It doesn't mean I'll never do it again, but I don't know what the stipulations would be or what the motivation would be, and if I'd be able to feel okay about it. How long have we been going here? Only 40 minutes. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, I figured you would, philosophy. I keep seeing certain people pop up over and over again, like philosophy, where obviously we've never met. I don't know you guys, but I do feel like I know you and I get to know your personality. And philosophy, you've made some very astute comments, my friend, and it's pretty easy to suss who the artists are. I feel the same about the art world. Yeah. Oh my God. Don't get me started. There's so much to say about that, but I guess we'll let it go. Um, oh, thanks, Cindy. I appreciate the comment. You have some really great stuff on here. I listen when I can. You're extremely creative, Doug. Thank you. I don't know about that, my friend. Like I said, if you really want to see an editor extraordinaire in action, check out Kellycopter. I don't really, the editing's not great and this and that, but I guess the creative part, if you want to call it that, is just speaking out about this with people that actually give a shit or will listen. Cindy, I would try to talk to my friends. All I could talk about to integrate this and to try to heal was I would go to the actor studio. They had classes 5 times a week, and that was my cathedral, like I said earlier. And all I would do to my friends, that guy that dropped the book off, his name's Jamie, to Martin Landau, our teacher, to people I'd run into in the coffee shop, to strangers at the supermarket. All I could talk about, and it would come up somehow because it was always on my mind, is Scientology to people. And some of them would go, "Ooh, tell me more." But most of the time, they didn't care. I really needed, like in Scientology, someone to acknowledge or understand. That's why I kept saying it. But it was kind of over people's head. They have their own lives to live. And who am I to burden them with rambling about this thing that needs to come out? That's why I'm saying, like the YouTube thing, I didn't know it, but I need to actually speak it. Every time I say it, there's a healing that happens. And that's what I was trying to get. I realize now by cornering my poor friends or strangers and saying, not saying it would come out in conversation somehow. I would probably do it, introduce it accidentally or whatever, because it was in my subconscious all the time. And Scientology would come out and I'd ramble about it. And not only did people not care, it is amazing to have all these cool people here, man, that like actually will hang out with me tonight and listen to and engage in a conversation. It's really wild, my friends. That's another thing. The outside world, Scientology is so bad, and it's still something that somebody asked earlier, about the deprogramming process and why I said it'll be for till I die. It's so different in the world that you guys know that haven't been in a cult or an abusive relationship. I know a lot of you have, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But those that haven't, Scientology is so evil. It's so beyond, like Mike Rinder said the other day when he was talking to Leah, it's so evil. And it also sounds so crazy to outsiders who just think we're a bunch of idiots and can't understand like how we get into it. But he was saying to Leah, it's so evil that unless you actually experience it, you really can't appreciate it. They break up families. What Leah and Mike were talking about the other day was how this gal, one of the Jane Does that was sexually assaulted by Danny, she lost her mom, her Scientology mom, when her mom encouraged her to somewhat go forward. She encouraged her basically about, yes, you were raped, and she agreed with her on that part. But when it came to convicting Scientology, and she'd have to, in order to bring Danny into this, her own fucking mom disconnected from her. That's what we were talking about earlier with Kellycopter. The third dynamic, I'm not going to hate with the nomenclature. The group, Scientology, that's what everything revolves around. So while you think you're helping self or you think you're getting in touch with God, these are the various dynamics. It always circles back around in a mind control fashion to Scientology is the greatest thing. It's what gave you all the freedom. It gives you everything. So everything circles back around to Scientology. And this fucking Jane Doe, whose own mom, and people say, I would never do that. I could never do what you guys do in Scientology. Your own mom. I'm a mother. I would never do that as a mother. But you would if you're under mind control and you go through the process. And this is why Mike Rinder said, you really have to experience it to appreciate how it happens and the level of evilness. But the thing is like, again, I forgot what I was fucking rambling about. But the point that I'm trying to get at is the creativity, the way out of this fucking thing, speaking out about it, all the trauma that it causes, how fucking evil Scientology really is, why it probably looks ridiculous. If you haven't been in an abusive relationship or a cult, it really is fucking impossible to explain. And I didn't even know it myself until rambling about it, because I obviously just forgot the question right now about how much there is to come out. And thank God there's people that actually fucking listen. Jesus Christ, that was a ramble. Thank you for the quick follow-up question, Chow. You're right there when I need you. Question, you doing okay, man? Good question. Thank you. Nobody's actually asked me that recently. We're here for you. Happy to see your face. and hear what you have to say. P.S. Xenu, thank you. God damn it, we can finally try this thing out. By the way, guys, this is where pretty lame. Chow, thank you for the 2-in-1 combo there of not only handling those thirsty in the audience, but asking a good question. How the fuck am I doing? It's been really stressful, to be honest, and I don't share a lot because I don't want to. I just want to do the material. I don't want to get off on tangents. Sometimes it feels like me, even against the whole SPTV community too, because they talk a lot on a surface level and shit. And also, if I want to talk about Hollywood, that seems to be another crew that brings pressure. And then also talking about Scientology, who wants to spend the rest of their fucking life, had a beautiful life that it was a delusion. But until I woke up, I had a quote unquote loving family. I had a guaranteed acting career. So ever since that day, and, speaking out about this stuff, that question really kind of hit me, Chow, because it's been fucking really challenging. And there is a price that comes with all that shit. It does feel like I don't want to burden people with a lot of stuff because what's the point? They might not understand. And who cares? I just want to keep going with the information. But it often feels like one man against, the people that I used to be involved with, the Hollywood crew. I used to look up to Danny Masterson. I used to go to his house, his mother's house. Is this going to get me dinged now? I mean, they really got me fucked up on what happened the other day because I don't know. I know whoever they reported me is watching, and now I'm about to share a personal experience with Carol. And is that what got the fucking thing taken down? Chow, you're seeing. Thanks for asking this question because it's actually I've kept a lot of stuff bottled up. I think that's why this is hitting me so much because I keep getting hit, but I don't talk about it too much. And it's finally building up where nobody's ever asked me how I'm doing. And I'm trying to give you an honest answer by I don't need any sympathy. I'm not, being attacked. I'm fine. But I got to tell you, it's really been frustrating and it's weighed on me. And like I said, I've been disappointed, as I've talked about before, in the general, not everybody, SPTV community, because that can be rather cult-like. And it feels like one man against like the very people that I used to be a part of and trying to expose things that they would rather not happen. Yet not with animosity, not with hate in my heart. The only thing that makes me feel confident in talking about this without sounding arrogant is because I fully accept that I was these people. That's why I wanted to save my parents. I understand the trap, man. I understand how it happened. It's really not their fault. So there's no way to kind of like, I learned a long time ago, there's no way to save anybody. I have felt a lot of frustration and I don't speak out a lot about a lot of stuff that happens because I take it onto me. I learned how to take responsibility in Scientology. But the frank answer is it's never been more challenging than the day that frenemy dropped off that Scientology book, because before I had an integrated life, I had a guaranteed acting career there. I had just signed with the big agency and my whole life was set up. I loved my family and I loved my church of Scientology. So to get that all removed, that happened in January 2008, the entire time from that, whereas before I was living a complete illusion, but life was relatively easy and I just had to follow my ego goals. And I thought my life was all set up for me. I finally got on television. I got some big parts and I've never felt shittier in my life than when that happened. And then bam, almost the next day, the book gets dropped off on my doorstep and I go through a massive transformation that's never stopped and never will until I die. So what has that part of my life been like? It's been fucking challenging. It was nothing like the delusion that I was living in for most of my life. But as challenging as it's been, I wanted to commit suicide. I went homeless for a long period of time. I lived out of my car. I hung with all sorts of interesting people. I finally leaned into it and treated it as an adventure. And it's the only thing that kept me from killing myself because I'm like, there must be a reason why this is all happening. One day I have a loving family, a church, and a cult, and a church leader I totally believe in, L. Ron Hubbard. I'm just about to have the career that I've been suffering for and starving for over a decade. And the next day my fucking life changes. Long story short, Chow, it's been fucking really fucking challenging. This is why I don't beat people into trying to wake up or anything, because there's a price to pay with it. You can see what you can't see before. And it went from, I love Scientology, I want to be like Danny Masterson, Jason Doring is my best friend, and these are all lovely people, to I now have to turn on these people, try to expose them, and my parents and my friends aren't going to have any idea why the fuck I'm doing that. And they're going to see me as evil, and they're going to try to attack me. So that's what my life's been like since waking up in January 2008. And I wouldn't, final disclaimer on your comment here, Chow, as I've said a million times, it's the greatest gift I ever got. I didn't personally do it. I'm not even sure the friend did it or whether it would have happened or not. But once you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, and you're given the opportunity that my parents weren't given, that a lot of Scientologists won't be given, where somehow or another you actually get the chance to wake up, because the mind control is really powerful, my friends. I'm telling you, I know it looks stupid from the outside, but if only you could see how real that illusion was and how unlikely I was to break out of it on my own. So once I got that, it's the greatest gift I've ever gotten. Scientology's so fucking evil, I wouldn't trade anything, including death, to go back to it. So as frustrating as it's been extremely rewarding, and it's the best gift I've ever gotten. So great question, and thanks for asking me how I'm doing. That felt really good, my friend. No one's ever asked that before. I can't fucking read that. I can't read it. It's too small on my screen, my friend. Let me pull it up here so I can. Nope, that throws it. Okay. Hectafino or whatever it is. I'm sorry I'm mispronouncing that. It's just so small I can't see it. Question: when you started reading the book, what was the first thing you read that out a crack in your armor? I think I know what you're asking. It was this thing called the BITE model, and I've talked about the BITE model, BITE, and I've talked about it a million times on the channel. It's not the new version of Combating Cult Mind Control. That's the book that I read that day. It was an old version. And there's a couple of things that struck me that made me skip the indie Scientologist route, where I don't know how else it would work, but unless you get it in the kind of fashion I'm about to describe, it's like peeling off onion skin. So you still believe in Hubbard, and you just think it's David Miscavige, the cult leader. And then you eventually find out Hubbard's history, and you start doubting Hubbard. Then you start doubting the tech, the auditing, and the wins that you got. It's usually a really slow process. And so you become indie Scientologist, or you come off slowly. What I'm about to describe to you that was in that book got removed all that shit. There was no indie route. I went from a true believer to what the fuck just happened to me. My cult leader is a complete liar. And if he lied about everything, then what else did he lie about? Hence, after that, I jumped on the internet, and down the rabbit hole I went. My point on that is there was no going back to Scientology. There was no believing in Hubbard. There was no methadone route. I was fucking mad. And I've said before, I wanted to find out where L. Ron Hubbard was buried, dig him up, and beat the shit out of him. It's that anger that kept me from ever compromising going back to Scientology. There's like a rubber band, both with your programming that makes you want to go back, and your parents and friends telling you you're making the wrong decision. As strong as that rubber band was, it was the fact that I knew he was a liar, which I'll explain in a second why that was, and that I was so angry and offended that I had been lied to my whole life. I would take death rather than doing what my parents tried to do and pull me back, and what my own programming, which I had to fight, was telling me to do, that I'm making a mistake, because I still believe in Scientology in my head. It doesn't go away in a day. But I knew deep down, this is all wrong, and I don't give a crap what the consequences are of finding out what happened to me. So what happened is, Steve Hassan was a previous Moonie. That's the Moon cult run by Sung Young Moon, which is an even bigger and more powerful cult than Scientology, like big time. That's why if we take down Scientology, great, but there's plenty more to go. What he said in that was that he described his story, and he talked about some of the mind control mechanisms, and he never mentioned Scientology. Now, we're programmed to have thought-terminating cliches where I'm not going to get into the story of how I even picked up the book, because I wasn't even going to read it. I was going to report my friend to the church, which is another story about why that happened. What I'm saying is, I'm so programmed to know I'm not in a cult that my friend dropping off this book he's already an enemy of mine, and there's nothing for me to learn. But because I was bored that night, I picked it up, and he's talking about his experience about the Moon cult. And the reason I mention that is, if he would have said that Scientology is a cult or anything, I would have shut the book. I only was reading because he was talking about my experience with L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology via the Moonies and his story. So as I'm reading his story, I'm going, that's Hubbard. That's fucking Hubbard. Is it? Shit, is Hubbard doing that? Wait a minute. Is mankind greatest friend? Why is he so similar to what Steve's talking about with the Moonies? Now, the next thing that came up as I'm starting to panic and my heart's racing is he has this thing called the BITE model that stands for behavior, information, thought, and emotion. These are the 4 areas that any destructive group or cult, use whatever word you want, engages in to varying degrees that make them destructive. So when I saw that, he, in a very scientific way, said this is how they control behavior. They make you dress a certain way. I thought of the Sea Org. They have you wear uniforms. Then it went over. They might starve you. They might keep food, at a minimum to keep you in a trance state. I started thinking of the Sea Org again. So he describes all these different points on behavior. Then he talks about information control. You're not allowed to talk to other members that might snap you out of it. I was like, fuck, man. Is that why I can't go on the internet and look at negative stuff on Scientology? You have thought terminating cliches where you're not going to be able to get through to the cult member. As soon as you say certain trigger words, they won't even listen to you. I was like, holy fuck, that's what happened to me. I almost didn't read this book. So he goes over all these points on information control. And then he talks about thought control and how that works. All of a sudden, now I'm learning about hypnosis. What the hell's that? I thought that was just swinging a watch in front of my face. The way he described hypnosis that he experienced in his group and other cults was the very thing that Scientology's auditing was doing. So I learned about hypnosis right away. And I didn't go through the debate with all the ex-Scientologists today that don't even know that fucking Scientology is 100% covert hypnosis. I mean, you can get lost in a debate for weeks with ex-Scientologists that don't think that's true. So he hit me with that information on the thought control. And then he talked about this thing called thought terminating cliches, which I found myself doing reading this information. So literally within 30 minutes, and then I read the whole fucking thing in one sitting. By the time I was done with that book, my life changed. I knew mankind's greatest friend, L. Ron Hubbard, not only lied a little bit, which would have been enough to get me out of the cult. I found out just through what I described, let alone the rest of the book, that he lied about everything. That cognitive dissonance, that mind switch, they call it snapping and mind control parlance. If you have an instant awakening, I will never be able to put into words what that actually felt like and what was going on in my head. But I can tell you, I felt absolute terror and dread. I knew I was in a very dangerous situation. I now was probably going to lose my family. I'm now thrust with the additional responsibility of having to save my family and get them through the very mind control that I'm now discovering. All this hit me in the first day. So I had a dramatic change. And like I said, I mean, that was in January 2008. It took me till the pandemic hit in 2020 to, I guess, feel healed enough and safe enough and confident enough to spontaneously talk out about it. And now I get the new phase, just to conclude, is where, I've been on YouTube up to now, and now there's like new challenges. And by the way, I don't get triggered or anything. I went through a whole dark night of the soul. People often wonder about, I don't want to type this to Doug or say this. Really, like nothing. Maybe nothing triggers me, not the right phrase. I do get triggered, but I can handle it, is what I'm saying. So don't ever be afraid that you're worried that you're talking to an ex-cult member and I don't want to trigger Doug or whatever. I already went through all that shit through the deprogramming process of allowing myself to purposely be triggered to actually get to the programming that was installed. So I just want to throw that out there because people say that often. Don't worry about saying anything. It's all good. Except for the trolls, like I said. If you're one of these jackasses that was in here earlier that's like, Doug, you're a dickhead, that's not cool. Okay. Stand by. Norman, what's up? Or I'm pronouncing that wrong, aren't I? I know who you are, my friend, and I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. Doug, I think you would make a great investigative journalist. Thanks, man. That's a really nice compliment, but I don't feel like I have those credentials at all. I'm just trying to share my story and facts based on my personal runnings with Scientology and Hollywood and my family. But investigative journalist, I think, is an entirely different thing, right? I can't speak on things I don't know about. Kimberly, what's up? I haven't seen you for a while. There is an even conversational hypnosis, yes, where they literally just bore you into a trance. Exactly. That's just part of it. I'm sure you know, Kimberly, about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And L. Ron Hubbard was a master of this in his writings and the way he talked on the tape lectures. If you sentence a structure together, I promise you we'll do a breakdown on this because it's fascinating. You can literally talk to someone and put in anchor points and structure a sentence a certain way with certain words that can literally hypnotize simply by talking. not even necessarily looking into the eyes, which can help do that. You don't need all the other tricks, that Darren Brown will teach you, just with words alone. And the media does this constantly. I can't wait to get into some of these videos because it's really interesting just how subtle this mind control is. One of the things that I learned from that Steve Hassan book was that how subtle these things are. Because one of the questions I had is, why the fuck didn't I learn any of this in school? This is really important to know. Why wasn't I prepped up against, why wasn't I given the tools to defend myself against predators or this kind of information that I don't know about that I might meet in real life? That was my first question. Why is this out of the education system? I quickly found an answer to that. But my second question was, the reason people don't know about this, and a lot of people do walk around in a trance, is because it's fucking subtle. And it's like, it's really, really interesting. And those that are propagandists or that are doing commercials, or again, we go back to Hollywood, they know all about this shit and it's used all the time. So I can't wait to do some fucking deep dive videos on that because I found that information fascinating. And Steve Hassan's book set the stage because he goes into all that shit. I was learning so many things just in that book that I'd never heard before. And as traumatizing as it was, I found the shit fascinating too because I'm like, this is interesting. I learned more out of deprogramming and how my mind works by trying to get this mind virus out of my mind by studying books like Steve than I ever did in school, and especially Scientology. So Scientology says they're dehypnotizing you while you're hypnotizing you. And then just learning about how that process worked, it was an education in itself that I've never would have gotten anywhere else. That's another benefit of growing up in a cult. Latte. No, I need to find a better system where I can fucking read these things because the screen's so small. Let me pull this closer. Guidelines isn't mind control. No government is not intrinsically evil or controlling. I would highly disagree with that because, if you have narcissists like H.G. Tudor that we talk with, psychopaths, or let's take Danny Masterson, they may not be aware that they're evil. They'd be the last person ever to tell you they're evil. They'll tell you they're an upstanding person. But that's kind of like saying evil doesn't exist or they're not controlling. There's definitely people that either consciously or unconsciously are have evil intentions and know very well how to control people. I give you L. Ron Hubbard. He's a complete dipshit. He sounds like a total moron when you're out of the cult. But if you're a master hypnotist and you know how to do that to somebody, you can get someone to dance around like a monkey, not because you're intelligent, not because you're smarter than them, but because you have evil intentions, as they would say, and you know all about mind control techniques. And he, I would say, was consciously aware that he was doing that. So I don't know, Lorna, I would have to respectfully disagree. There are people that do evil in this world and are definitely after control. I think the super long and infomercials may employ NLP. Kimberly, you got to get off late night television, man. They bore you to death, yeah, and embed the idea that you need their product. Yeah, exactly. Again, we'll do a video just on television because I found that shit absolutely fascinating. Loot, I can't read these, so I'm going to have to skip the names until I can get a bigger screen here. Loot Fish Lemonade, something like that. Hey, Doug, do you think that Danny's sentence is appropriate for what he did? I can already hear that Danny, there are people out there, and I understand this, by the way, that either don't, because it's complex and Scientology plays a role in that. So they might legitimately think, look, these chicks came, it's been 20 years. One of them was a girlfriend. It doesn't make any sense. I've heard there's no DNA evidence. Where's the police reports? So if you haven't actually followed the case or followed the information about how Scientology fits into that, listen to the gal's testimony. It's quite complex and there's a lot to it. But in my opinion, and I think people that have been following, there's no doubt that they came to the right conclusions. There was about 15 gals that allegedly had the same thing happen to him. 15 people don't come forward all pointing at the same man doing the same thing unless there's probably where there's smoke, there's fire. So if you add that together with if you've been following the case and you still say that you think Danny is being wrongly accused, then I would say something's wrong with your head. But there's a lot of people that don't know the case. hypnotized by the NCIS version of how shit works. There's no DNA evidence. That's not all you need, my friends, and there doesn't need to be any in this case. Obviously not, because he was convicted. What I'm saying is, if these are probably some of the trolls too, by the way. They're not necessarily OSA. They're just people that really believe that Danny got fucked on this, no pun intended. But from my perspective and those that have been following it, it's disgusting. So I personally think that he got exactly what was appropriate. I'm still a little bit nervous, personally, just straight disclosure. He might not pull an Epstein, but I still can't believe this conviction happened. I think it's going to stand, but he's got appeals that he can do. Scientology's in the mix. How are they going to be held accountable? The civil trial is not going to necessarily expose. What needs to happen is Scientology's cover up of this sexual assault, which again, where there's smoke, there's fire. This is just one. They need to be involved in this somehow. And a civil case, from my understanding, isn't going to do it. There is a grand jury investigation going on behind the scenes regards that, to my understanding, but that's kept under wraps. Not only did he get what he deserves, for those that understand the case, Scientology and the whole shebang needs to be held accountable, in my opinion. Hope that answered your question. Thanks for the question, by the way. Any other questions before we, I guess, kind of roll out of here? How long we been? An hour or something? This is still really difficult, my friends. I have to figure out to get somebody in here. Goldie's the moderator, but it needs to be easier to find questions. I know I'm missing the drinking game shit. Maybe I tried to incorporate too much shit tonight. It's the first attempt at a Q&A, so it's kind of a test run. But I'm really sorry if I can't get to all your questions. There's a lot to scroll through, and sometimes it can be hard to actually see them here. But let me just scroll through and see if you have any more questions, and if not, we'll roll out of here. Okay, do you think got that one, Lou? Thank you. Again, like I just cringe with all this dead air shit. I'm going to have to figure out something else to do. Okay, it doesn't look like there's any more questions. It's a lot, Doug. Yes, it is philosophy. I'm doing the best I can. This one kind of sucks. Okay, thanks, Lindsay, for saving the day. I will now remove my dick from my hand and stop looking like an idiot. Lindsay, what do you think about Ashton and Mila's letter in defense of Danny and their subsequent apology? I really think I have to be careful with what I say here, but you want to know what I really think about that? I think there's a totally hypothetical, I have to say, for the YouTube algorithm bots. This is my opinion. I don't know what special words I have to say to make sure that I'm saying that I'm not accusing anybody. I'm trying to give my opinion about this question. Sorry for being overly paranoid, but seriously, I mean, I really want to answer this, but this might have been what got the video dinged. I think that there's more to come out about Ashton Kutcher, totally speculatively, that is making him and maybe other people around him act in such an unusual way. It might be a little bit more than him just defending a rapist. Let me just back up a minute. That letter that I showed you on that video, again, it's on BitChute and now it's on Rumble now. So you can see exactly what the hell I'm talking about right now without going into detail that might, get this video flagged or whatever. But Ashton, all those letters a lot of them were for Scientologists. A lot of them were some of them were for TV producers. Again, I will link, by the way, what I'm talking about now, because it might have been that URL that said too much, and that I don't know what the hell got the video taken down. So on BitChute or Rumble, what I'm talking about now, it's important with all the names of the people that came forward trying to put in a good word for Danny. I will put that link in the Danny Masterson video on the Rumble and BitChute. So what was in there was a lot of Scientologists, prominent Scientologists / actors / entertainment people. There was some people from Hollywood in general. We had Kevin Pollak video that I showed you. Again, I'll link to that shit. And we had who else did we have? And then we had the 70s show people who sounded to me like they were talking like Scientologists. And what I'm saying is not all of those people, but many of those people beyond just a Scientologist, that would include Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher, and other people that made statements. I believe, long story short, that there's much more to their behavior and why they're acting that way because of what they know hanging around Danny and possibly being involved in not sexual assault, but well, let me just say this. Ashton runs a charity that has to do with protecting human trafficked people. And there's more to know about that, where he's perhaps acting in this way, not just to protect Danny, but to protect his own ass. Maybe even being under the Scientologist thumb to make such a statement to protect something that he wants to hide. So there's might be more to it than him just acting in a way that has everybody in shock on TikTok. And I know they're hammering Ashton right now. And again, I wanted to say something about this, but I did that previous video so I can find out how to talk about this stuff without being booted off for a week and getting a strike and shit. So that's why I think that they're acting that way. And Mila, I'm sure you guys saw that video on Aaron's channel where he talked about this today. She doesn't look happy. And I think he's doing a video on it tomorrow, which I'm going to watch, hopefully exposing some of that stuff. And maybe he can test the waters first. And if it looks okay, I can jump in and add to it. So yeah, sorry for the ramble again. I guess that's it, my friends. Been going for over an hour. I don't want to keep you here forever. I'm kind of burned out and exhausted just from the shit that's been going on the last few days. So I'll just check towards the end here. If you have any new comments, I've just scrolled through everything else mostly. Doug, please contact Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman. Is that in reference, Norman, to helping out with, how to handle the copyright shit or not be freaked out about what I can and cannot say? Please let me know in the comments in this video if you don't mind, Norman. I'd really appreciate that. Yes, Goldie. I haven't even noticed if you're here tonight, but obviously you are. Thanks again for all the help and, just moderating all this shit. Maybe we can talk to Goldie on the phone again soon and you could help me out on like how to run this a little bit better with the questions and shit, because it's really difficult to do without the super chat and that shit that like pops everything out. Again, I'll just run through this real quick. I wanted to join this cult. Really, Dusty? Good thing you didn't. Okay, I'll definitely have to see what you guys are chatting about there. Lindsay G, what say thee? Ashton lied about his girlfriend's murder. Oh, right. I have heard about that, but I think I have to say, really? Tell me more. I have to say allegedly or whatever. See how freaked out? That's fucking assholes, man. They have me all like freaked out where I never worried about this shit until yesterday. Danny knew about this. Do you think this is the reason that he would write such a letter? Maybe. I told you, Lindsay, I think that he has... I just have to present the evidence. And like I said, let me just see what you guys wrote in the comments on the previous video. Let me put the evidence together so it's not just hearsay. I think that there's some stuff to Ashton as to why he might have things to cover up and why he's acting the way he is beyond just making in bad taste a statement. And like I said, he was super, super fucking close with Danny. They owned the Geisha Night House together. They were co-owners in that. And the way he defended him was, as you guys know, really disturbing to those that aren't Ashton or that know kind of the story about how really evil Danny actually is. So though, there's more to, I don't even know what I can say. There's more to say about why he's acting that way. And like I said, as soon as I get the green light on how to present that and I can do facts, which I have plenty to show, I think that'll make more sense. So I'm not being so fucking vague. And also Mila too, man. Like what I was saying was the only one that didn't hang out with these people, and he was considered like a pansy or whatever, and everybody thought he was a narcissist, was Wilmer, and he distanced himself from this crew. So there's a reason, I think, possibly even Scientology related, why Ashton not only sounded like a Scientologist in that letter, not only felt compelled to have to write a letter on Danny's behalf, but that relates back to what he himself might allegedly be having to cover up himself and feel forced to act the weird way that he's acting. Does that make sense? Okay. Anything else here, my friends? Blue Scott, excuse me. Good to see you. TL Grant, haven't seen you forever, my friend. How are you doing? Hi, Doug. I'm late, but I'm here. It's great to see you, dude. Checking in from the Sierra foothills of Northern California. Really good to see you again, dude. I hope all is well with you. Any more questions? Lots of chatting, lots of love. It's really good to have such a fucking cool community. Question about your vid that was taken down. Did you talk about that time in history when we had to wear paper across our face. Maybe just take that bit out. Love your work. Thank you. Well, I've been trying to throw in hints on that. The video where we had a sponsorship from Pfizer didn't get dinged. None of that was in this video. I know what I can. I mean, I've learned these rules. I'm really, I've had many challenges staying on YouTube. So I've watched what other creators are doing. I see what seems they can get away with and what they can't. And I know those rules inside and out. Apparently not, because maybe I got something wrong. I'm totally open to that. But if I talk about that, and by the way, this should tell you something for people that don't, they immediately do a thought terminating cliche. And they say, if you don't believe what the government told you about what happened in the last 3 years, then you're a conspiracy theorist. That takes the debate out. That doesn't allow you to question what you're being told by government, who has a massive track record of doing nothing but lying. So you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist. If you had some questions about what was going on that this person is talking about, and even to mention it, even to present information that might counter the official government narrative, is met with misinformation. Many, many YouTube channels got taken down. I used to watch them, so I know. Right when the pandemic hit in 2020, and slowly more and more people get memory hold where you can't even talk about this. There's a couple of people that do, but I'm sure they're not going to last. So no, my friend, I have not talked about that specifically, but I do make references to that the algorithm bots can't pick up on. And if they did have a problem with that video and none of the other videos, I mean, we've talked about some pretty heavy shit on there, for whatever reason, I've never gotten a strike on anything. Although now I wonder, are they going to go back through my catalog now? Whoever reported me on the last one, are they reporting me now to YouTube on the other previous Danny videos? Who knows, right? But you can't talk out about this. And all I wanted to say regards that information control we talked about earlier, I just want to suggest that it's a red flag that if the information is controlled by the media and you can't question, if you have questions, that is a red flag for being in a destructive cult that's using mind control on you. That's a long story to how I deal with that, because I have a lot to say about that. And maybe if we get fully over on BitChute and these platforms where you can say whatever you want, we'll fucking get way into that. Because yeah, I'm interested in what's happening on the global scale, even more so than Scientology. Scientology's, and we'll end on this. Scientology is near and dear to my heart because I lived it. But to me, it's just a microcosm of the macrocosm. So I use that as a jumping off point for the shit that really matters in me. Because you can take this for how you want. I'm not trying to push my ideas on anyone. But one of the other great gifts I got out of growing up in this evil ass cult, like I said, it gave me the eyes to see and the ears to hear. And it taught me about how programming and all this shit works. So I did start to see this, not being a conspiracy theorist. I didn't believe in any of that shit. I just wanted to know the truth of what happened to me. And by learning the tools that Steve Hassan and other people were teaching me about hypnosis and mind control and such, I was able to see that happening on a wider scale. Now, because of the things that I learned, I had a different reaction during the pandemic. And like I said, it drove me crazy. And it created a lot of difficult living situations that didn't exist before. And all I wanted to say in closing is that thank God that, Scientology did happen to me, because there's a lot of, I get a lot of strange comments where people are spectators and they think they're watching a freak talk out about Scientology and that it would never happen to them because it looks lunatic asylum. But, I just suggest that what's happening on the global scale is a version of that. And, people hit me all the time with thinking you're a conspiracy theorist if you have questions about what's happening and that you can't acquit, it's misinformation. That's the very reason why hopefully these other platforms will continue to grow and they'll be a viable challenge to YouTube, because the censorship is outrageous. It's a huge red flag if you can't question what's going on. And what I wanted to say is, I feel like I got a preview growing up in Scientology. And believe me, my friends, it's a fucking living hell. It's difficult to get out of. And it's fucking evil, like I said. Now, if we don't challenge what's going on and we accept what we're being fed and we're not allowed to question the information, we are going to be leaving behind a world for our children and grandchildren that's going to make what I and Kelly Copter, Serge, and all the other people experience growing up in Scientology. It's going to make that look like a fucking Sunday school if we just go along with what we're being hypnotized to believe. Sorry for the rant. That's been a long time in coming. That's as much as I can say about that on this platform, for the very reasons that it's suppressed. So all I'm saying is question everything. That's the one fucking thing I did learn. And it's apropos to end off with the New World Order by Ministry that we do in every stream. And like I said, guys, if this was lame or boring or whatever, sorry I couldn't get to the comments. We might not necessarily do this again. I just wanted to take a breather at the end of the week, hang out with you guys that I see in the chat all the time, that I feel like I get to know, and just talk and shit. And I really appreciate the penetrating like questions and comments, because you made me reflect tonight. And I really needed, you guys mean a lot to me, man, because it, as Chow touched upon earlier, it's been fucking challenging, and thanks for letting me offload. See you next week. Unless, of course, I get dinged by one of these fucking videos. Take care, my friends.
Hard physical labor and intense ideological study are used to break the subject's will. So is that the truth?